First, Colonial Manhattan in the 1600s was a small but rising outpost at the edge of the Atlantic world. Fewer than 2,000 people lived here for most of the century, yet this narrow island already mattered. It sat between empires, trade routes, and cultures. In this video, I use modern AI tools to bring historic paintings, engravings, and early prints to life. This allows us to shift perspective, change camera angles, and move through the same scenes in ways their original artists never could. We can step into the streets, trace the shoreline, and look past the static frame of history. First, I want to talk about where this story. First, Colonial Manhattan in the 1600s was a small but rising outpost at the edge of the Atlantic world. Fewer than 2,000 people lived here for most of the century. Yet this narrow island already mattered. It sat between empires, trade routes, and cultures. In this video, I use modern AI tools to bring historic paintings, engravings, and early prints to life. This allows us to shift perspective, change camera angles, and move through the same scenes in ways their original artists never could. We can step into the streets, trace the shoreline, and look past the static frame of history. First, I want to talk about where this story begins. The southern tip of Manhattan, 1600s AI Reconstruction. This is the southern tip of Manhattan. This view shows the island at its rawest edge, where land ends and water begins. In the early 1600s, this narrow stretch of land feels exposed, unfinished, and constantly in motion. The Hudson River widens here, slowing as it meets the harbor before opening fully into the Atlantic world. By the 1620s, this narrow stretch of land has become the center of New Amsterdam. The settlement is young, uncertain, and still finding its shape. Founded in 1624 by the Dutch West India Company, it exists not as a city yet, but as a trading foothold, a calculated risk placed far from home. In the foreground, the shoreline is uneven and jagged. Large stones jut from the soil, left behind by retreating glaciers thousands of years earlier. The water laps directly against these rocks at high tide, sometimes flooding the lowest structures. There are no seawalls yet, no reinforced edges, only wood, rope, and hope. Small buildings cluster close to the water. They are built quickly, with survival in mind rather than beauty. Walls are made from rough planks cut locally, or brick transported across the ocean as ship ballast. The bricks are mismatched in size and color, laid unevenly but solid enough to endure harsh winters. Roofs are steep and heavy, designed to shed rain and snow. Shingles darken quickly from moisture and smoke. Windows are narrow and few, meant to hold warmth rather than invite light. Many homes lean slightly, already sinking into the soft, reclaimed ground near the shore. Behind these buildings, the land rises sharply. The slope is irregular, broken by exposed stone and tangled roots. Tall oak, chestnut, and pine trees press close to the settlement's edge. Only narrow clearings separate wilderness from habitation. Paths climb inland from the water. They are not yet streets. They curve and bend naturally, shaped by feet rather than plans. Mud fills the low points. In winter, ice settles thick and uneven. Daily life here is ruled by the tide. From dawn to dusk, boats approach the shoreline. Some glide quietly, barely disturbing the surface. Others arrive loudly, scraping against crude docks built from pilings driven directly into the riverbed. Lenape traders arrive in dugout canoes. Their movements are smooth and deliberate. They carry beaver pelts, corn, and knowledge of the land beyond the river. Their presence is steady and familiar, though increasingly uneasy. Dutch trading vessels arrive heavier. Their sails are furled slowly. Ropes are thrown. Voices rise as crews call instructions in sharp, clipped tones. You hear the creak of wood under strain, the splash of oars, the rhythmic knock of hulls against dock posts. Gulls cry overhead, circling constantly waiting for scraps. The air is thick with smell, salt carried in from the harbor, tar used to seal hulls and ropes, fish laid out on racks to dry, wet wood that never fully dries. Human presence layers over everything: sweat, smoke, waste. Nothing is hidden for long. Language fills the air. Dutch dominates, but it is far from alone. French traders argue prices. English sailors curse the wind. African languages are heard among enslaved laborers brought by the company. Lenape voices cut through in quieter exchanges. This place feels crowded, even with so few people, but it is fragile. Storms move in quickly from the Atlantic. Dark clouds roll across the harbor with little warning. Rain lashes the settlement, turning paths into streams. High winds tear at sails and roofs. When storms hit at high tide, waves push directly into the settlement. Cellars flood, stored goods are ruined, boats break free from their moorings. Fire is a constant fear. Open flames are everywhere. Cooking fires, heating fires, candlelight. One spark can leap from roof to roof. There is no organized fire brigade yet. Buckets are passed hand to hand. Entire blocks can vanish overnight. Disease arrives silently. Every ship brings the possibility of illness. Smallpox is the most feared. It spreads quickly in tight quarters. Families isolate themselves when symptoms appear. Church bells ring too often. Contemporary accounts describe empty homes, doors marked, and belongings left untouched. Fear settles into the daily rhythm. And yet, people stay. This tip of Manhattan matters. By the mid-1600s, whoever controls this point controls access to the Hudson River, and the Hudson is a highway into the continent. Furs from the interior pass through here: timber, food, information. The Dutch understand this clearly. This is not just a settlement, it is leverage. From this rocky edge, influence stretches far inland. Trade agreements are made, alliances shift, conflicts begin. Over time, the shoreline changes. Wooden docks extend further into the harbor. Land is filled outward using soil, debris, and refuse. What was once water becomes ground. The original coastline slowly disappears. Centuries later, people walk across Battery Park without realizing they stand where waves once broke against stone. They jog, rest, and look out at the harbor, unaware of how exposed this land once felt. But the orientation remains the same. Manhattan still faces the water, still outward, still open to the world. And this is only the beginning. This view shows Fort Amsterdam. By the 1630s, the fort dominates the settlement. Its thick walls face the harbor, with cannons pointed toward the sea. Inside, the structures are orderly and functional, built for control rather than comfort. Soldiers drill in the courtyard. Officials move between offices carrying documents and seals. Merchants wait for permits while guards stand watch at the gates. Tension is constant here. The Dutch fear English expansion and unrest within the colony. Under Governor William Kieft, conflict erupts in the early 1640s during Kieft's War, leaving deep divisions. Fort Amsterdam matters because it represents authority. It is where laws are declared and power enforced. In 1664, English warships arrive, and the fort surrenders without resistance. Today, its footprint lies beneath the streets near Bowling Green. This view shows the early harbor. By the 1650s, the harbor is crowded with ships and small boats. Masts fill the skyline. Barrels, crates, and bundles move constantly along the docks. Merchants shout prices. Sailors unload cargo. Enslaved Africans carry heavy loads under watchful eyes. The sounds of trade never stop. But danger is everywhere. Cargo falls. People drown. Ships bring illness as well as opportunity. This harbor matters because it fuels the colony's economy. The beaver trade alone transforms the region. Over time, land is filled outward into the river. Today, much of Lower Manhattan stands on ground that once lay underwater. This view shows the Harris Street. By the mid-1650s, this wide dirt road runs north from the fort. Later, it will be known as Broadway. It follows an older native path that crosses the island. Homes line the street, children run between doorways, carts rattle over uneven ground. Life here is personal. Neighbors argue, trade, and celebrate together. News spreads quickly, carried by voices rather than paper. Class tensions grow. Wealthy merchants build larger homes, while laborers struggle to survive. This street matters because it becomes the city's spine. Despite centuries of change, Broadway still follows this same route today. This view shows the wall at the edge of town. By the 1650s, a wooden wall cuts across the island. Logs are sharpened and set tightly together. A ditch runs alongside it. Guards patrol while farmers pass through gates during daylight hours. At night, the gates close, sealing the town. Fear drives its construction. English attack feels inevitable. Conflict with native nations remains unresolved. This boundary matters because it defines early New York. When the wall is removed, the street that replaces it becomes Wall Street. Today, it marks financial power instead of physical defense. This view shows the Dutch Reformed Church. By the 1640s, the church stands near the fort. Its design is plain and practical. Inside, benches are hard and sermons long.